Born in the heavenly kingdom, with a mandate of 9 years. The chaos in Shenzhou made it difficult for the people to make a living. The royal rule collapsed, and the Western barbarians and the various gods and religious leaders came to attack. New warlords are rising everywhere, occupying one side, and the Taiping Rebellion is rampant, causing great suffering. Natural disasters such as floods and droughts, earth dragons turning over, sandstorms and tornadoes, acid rain and red moons, and meteorite falls have occurred one after another. There are countless demons and monsters rampant, mixed with gods and ghosts, inexplicable monsters, or mysterious phenomena that cannot be understood. In this dark and chaotic world, Tao Qian opened his eyes and found himself a prisoner who was about to be beheaded at the entrance of the vegetable market. P.S. There is already a high-quality finished novel called The Lord of the Witch with a modern and mysterious background. Interested readers can give it a try. Keywords of the novel. Longevity difference, no pop-ups at the beginning of the vegetable market entrance. Longevity difference, the beginning of the vegetable market entrance is beheaded. Download the full text of the book. Longevity difference, the beginning of the vegetable market entrance is beheaded. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Rebirth of Caishikou. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 1 Rebirth of Caishikou Changsheng Heavenly Court, Seeking Immortal County. The drizzling rain enveloped the vegetable market street at dusk. The crowd that was originally going to the market was gradually dissipating when suddenly there was a burst of noise. But I saw dozens of soldiers rushing towards me from the other end, dressed in military uniforms and wielding swords, with their evil energy surging. In the middle were more than a dozen shackles, dressed in dirty prison clothes, smelling foul, and countless young prisoners with scars and wounds. At the forefront was a middle-aged bureaucrat with thick lips and black beard, a face full of flesh, riding a tall horse. Finally, there are several carriages used to carry the corpses. This group of people started the road with the sound of gongs, creating a lively atmosphere. The people who were about to disperse immediately gathered again, and even people from farther away rushed over. Everyone knows what is going to happen in this situation. A grand view of Caishikou Street. Head off in the street. Before long, the area was surrounded by people on the inner and outer floors. There are commoners, children, beggars, idle men, wealthy people, and even Western barbarians with golden hair and blue eyes who hold objects called cameras. Although many people themselves are pale and skinny, like refugees, this does not affect their willingness to join the fun. As soon as the hour arrived, the time reporter shouted the time loudly. The supervising officer held a red pen in his hand, with a cold smile on his lips, sketching one by one. The executioners take their positions, from east to west, and they must be cut down one by one. We're going to cut it off, and Caishikou Street really lives up to its reputation. You can really see the beheading. It's all so pitiful, it looks so miserable. I lost my life at a young age. Sigh, it's really pitiful. They were all top-notch young people who went to rebel against the court, but were betrayed by traitors and ended up being ruined by the corrupt officials. Son of a bitch, have you brought Mantu? If anyone has extra money, they can help collect their corpses afterwards. What are you holding back? The charge is treason. The heads of these children will be hung on a soul-summoning pole, and their immediate relatives can only redeem them in 7 days. If there are no relatives to pay, they may be thrown to a mass grave and eaten clean by those hyenas and wolves. Be content, that is to say, there have been too many rebellions in recent years. Not to mention the chaotic armies that have swept across more than 10 provinces, but also the dozens of provinces controlled by the court. Large and small chaotic parties have sprung up like mushrooms after rain, and all the effective means of suppression have been used, but unfortunately they have been useless. In turn, they have forced the court to gradually change the rules of those factions. These noisy noises awakened Tao Qian. As soon as he opened his eyes, he first saw the onlookers, followed by a sense of restraint on his body. Subconsciously looking around, a strong horror struck. Along with it, there are also chaotic memories like a frenzy. Soon, Tao Qianming realized. He crossed over and became a criminal about to be beheaded. Now is the Changsheng Heavenly Kingdom, with a mandate of 9 years. The original owner of this body was a person from a county in southern Guangdong, with a decent family background. Unexpectedly, one year, the family accidentally offended the local gentry and was destroyed by their enemies. The young man escaped by chance and later met some patriots, so he also ran to participate in anti-court activities with a passionate heart. For several years, he has been fighting for half of the dynasty, and a few days ago, he attempted to incite the station troops to launch an armed operation in Xuanxin County. Unfortunately, they were betrayed by traitors, their stronghold was uprooted, and everyone was captured in one net. Now Qi has been dragged to this vegetable market street and will be executed. What's the beginning of this? Even if hell starts, others will give some family members some time to reflect and survive. How did you get to me, and in a few seconds, you'll get a knife and end up with a separation of the body. Tao Qianzheng was feeling sad and angry. The executioners, dressed in rough hemp and crimson clothes, wrapped in red headscarves, and wielding ghostly knives, disregarded everything else and immediately knelt down the dozen or so prisoners, then swung their swords and beheaded them. But who would have thought that these young rebels, who had only half their lives left after being tortured, were now struggling together? No one is willing to kneel down. There is no fear of death in their eyes. They ignored the blood gushing from their throats, stared and opened their mouths wide, trying to make a sound to the people. In the crowd, the sound of gasping coldness lingers in one's ears. Everyone saw at this moment that the tongues of these young people had been pulled out. The bloody opening is shocking. People can only hear some meaningless sounds and see blood splattering. Nevertheless, these dozen or so dying young people still did not give up shouting, as if they wanted to awaken the onlookers. Tao Qian originally wanted to calmly ponder and see if he could find a way to survive in the last few seconds. The remaining will in the body still dominates the body. He stood straight on his knees, his eyes wide open as he watched the panicked, curious, and ignorant people. His tongue has a lot of remnants, so he coughs blood but barely makes some sounds. We are human beings. We will never kneel before the dog officials. The court is incompetent. The people are struggling. There is a willingness to kill thieves. There is no way to turn the tide. Family enmity and national hatred. Long awaken my people. Bang, the last roar was uttered, and Tao Qian was directly dragged into the sea of memories of his original hero. The complex and brief life experiences of over 20 years flooded over. And from the outside, the eunuch with thick lips and black beard was already in panic, throwing down red tickets one after another and roaring angrily. Slash! Hurry up and chop me off, you useless people. If you let the rebels speak up again, I will chop you all together. Slash it. The chief official was angry, and the executioners, who were originally somewhat perfunctory, dared not delay any longer. They all made fierce moves, even breaking the knees of the martyrs. However, before waving their swords, they whispered, "Everyone, we will serve you and leave. We will not let you suffer. Let's go." As the words fell, I saw the shining knife light start to shine one after another. The head falls to the ground, blood splatters on the luss. When blood spurts out from one cavity, the executioners also need to clear their mouths, spray alcohol, rest, and change their knives. A few seconds later, it was finally Tao Qian's turn. At this moment, Tao Qian seemed to have read through his original life, leaving only his final childhood. And the unexpected events that surprised Tao Qian also appeared at this moment. From his memory, Tao Qian knew that although this world was similar to the end of a previous dynasty, there were also too many differences. For example, the people here don't have braids or any 8 banners, it seems like a normal feudal dynasty. At the same time, there are actually a large number of monsters, inexplicable mysterious phenomena, and inexplicable monsters here. Human beings seem to mix with demons, immortals, and ghosts. Or, is it that these many peculiarities were born out of humans? When the original body was young, there were supernatural experiences. He mistakenly entered the wilderness cemetery, fell asleep in an old grave, and dreamt of himself reading with a fox. Most of the content in the fox book has disappeared into the original memory. Only one section of the mnemonic was recited at this very moment, gradually becoming louder and even directly recited. Blessing comes to the soul, or the idea of treating a dead horse as a living horse doctor. Tao Qian looked at the corner of his eye as a knife light appeared, and immediately silently recited the mnemonic in his heart. The dung beetle turns into a pill, forming a pill and thinking carefully, while those with white worms remain in the pill, while those with white worms remove their shells and cicadas. The other dung beetle does not think, while the other beetle shibai. The cook cooked the crab, leaving a few feet behind. The crab has already been cooked, but the feet are still moving. Those who are living or dead gather and disperse their energy. They are neither born nor dead, and people's strategy is called life and death. Once, just once, a strange thing happened. Tao Qian only felt that he had entered an extremely strange state in an instant, and his mind suddenly exploded with a stream of information. Before he could perceive it, another cold and terrifying aura emerged. That breath immediately reminded Tao Qian of corpses, puppets, decay, and so on. As he was about to slide into the abyss, suddenly an indescribable and unimaginable force surged from the depths of his soul. Like destroying everything, shattering the terrifying yin energy. At that moment, Tao Qian's whole body trembled fiercely. Later, Tao Qian saw it. My head rolled down, blood sprayed, but there was no pain at all. Just as the soul slowly withdrew from the corpse, looking first at the other martyrs, only a dozen dim white lights flashed past, curling up without a trace. However, he himself inexplicably felt various attractive forces coming from all around him, big and small. Soon, Tao Qian learned what the source of attraction was. That was a body that had just died. The old beggar starving to death on the street, dead mice or cockroaches in the ditch, mosquitoes in the drunken cup in the restaurant, and fish, shrimp, and crabs that had just died in the nearby seafood stall. All of these had a suction power on Tao Qian's soul. Tao Qian had a clear understanding that he seemed to have the opportunity to be reborn with an attached body. But these mosquitoes, insects, fish, and shrimp, Tao Qian instinctively refused. His soul drifted out in a daze, unable to hear the noise of the people, the executioners, and the executioners. I just tried my best to resist the sucking and pulling of the mosquito animal corpses, hoping to choose a suitable body. But soon, he felt the ultimate disaster. Although it is cloudy and rainy, there is no scorching sun shining down. The cold wind that could blow at any time could even harm his soul. At this moment, a truly cold and piercing yin wind blew over, almost making him completely insane. For the sake of survival, Tao Qian had to make a choice and submit to the biggest force of attraction. So the next second, Tao Qian's soul suddenly rushed forward and was pulled by a huge force to turn into white light. Instantly shooting towards the end of the vegetable market street, in a tightly closed shop. This is actually a dim and narrow bookstore. The oil lamp used for illumination has long been extinguished, and the ground is cluttered with a pile of books. At the counter, there lay a tall and thin male corpse, dressed in a cotton robe and a small coat. It's you. Tao Qian has no other choice at all. Let the suction force engulf his soul and thrust it into the unknown cause of death and age of the male corpse. Newcomers, new books, new stories, I hope everyone will enjoy them. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Book Diary. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Book Diary. The continuous rain rolled into a curtain, still covering Xuanxin County. The day was bustling with excitement, but as the heads landed one by one, they were hung in the center of the vegetable market street in front of everyone. The wooden post called the soul summoning pole finally came to an end. Except for a few people who are obsessed with medicine, most people hold a sad and indignant attitude towards the killing of those dozen or so martyrs, sighing endlessly. Unfortunately, the chaotic weather has emerged, and anyone is too busy to care about anything else. After nightfall, the vegetable market street was very peaceful. There was only a young watchman wearing a jacket, carrying a lantern, holding a bronze gong, with extremely dark circles under his eyes, ringing gongs and shouting a change number along the street. After finishing the night shift, the watchman looked at the nearly 10-meter-high soul summoning pole standing in front of him. According to the court's law, those who have been beheaded and are eligible to hang themselves are either plotting rebellion against the rebels or bandits. At this moment, there was a row of heads hanging on it, which were just over 10 young people who had been chopped off in the evening. A gust of night breeze blew over, and more than 10 heads shook along with it. The sound of flesh and bone rubbing against the pole sounded particularly eerie. The watchman sighed slightly, quickened his pace, and soon left the pitch-black vegetable market street. As soon as he left, he was in a shop at the end of the street. In the darkness, a corpse, originally lying on the ground with tightly closed eyes, suddenly opened its eyes. Just came back to life. Tao Qian seemed to be in a certain state of rigidity, and in his mind, the delayed burst of information was forcefully pouring in. The initial information was disorganized, obscure and difficult to understand. It seems like ancient sayings, some incomprehensible nonsense, and even some symbolic symbols like ghostly symbols. But gradually, they automatically sort and merge. Finally, a special format was formed that was easy for Tao Qian to understand. Title: Tao Qian. Category: Strange. Description: When being beheaded, one gains the characteristic of immortality by reciting the unknown residual formula, thus entering a state of immortality. One breath of source energy does not dissipate, and one can remain immortal. When dying again, one needs to recite the residual formula again to condense the source energy. If it fails, one will die completely. Note 1. Each time this mantra is recited, it will pay the following price. The body will permanently rot, the soul will be confused, and after being possessed, it will transform into a strange creature called a soul corpse. Note 2. Soul corpses are between life and death, confused, fond of cannibalism, addicted to een and dark dampness, and run 3,000 miles every blood moon, inexplicably exhausted. Note 3. The cost has been waived. After digesting the information flow, Tao Qian was stunned. Many doubts are now resolved. Why was he beheaded but not killed in that residual formula? And there was also the scent he felt at that time related to decay and corpses. Obviously, that is the price of immortality. Just inexplicably, his soul seemed to be different, and at a critical moment, it shattered the aura, allowing him to save the cost. So, this is likely my golden finger cheating, a strong perception of supernatural and eerie information, and cost saving. However, it still needs to be verified, as isolated evidence cannot be established. The thought fell and Tao Qian came back to his senses. Slowly get up and grope in the shop. After half a sound, he lit an oil lamp. The dim yellow light gradually spread and barely covered this small bookstore. By the light, he found a polished copper mirror in the corner. The next second, Tao Qian saw his current appearance clearly. Surprisingly, this is actually a young person. At around 25.6 years old, tall, thin and white, with a handsome appearance. There are smile lines at the corners of the mouth, combined with some squinting eyes, giving people a sunny and warm atmosphere overall. How did such a person die? Tao Qian just had this question in his mind, and it was incredibly natural that a memory surged out. In addition to the life of this body, there is also a poignant love story attached. This person actually has the surname Tao and the courtesy name Jiming. He is a 25-year-old scholar who has repeatedly failed the exam. In addition, his parents have passed away, and he is angry at the incompetence of the court. With a depressed mood, he decided not to prepare for the exam. A while ago, after running out of savings, I went to the corner shop on the street of Caishikou in the county town and opened a bookstore. Named Changsheng Bookstore, it sells various books. There are all kinds of new books, ancient books, calligraphy, and calligraphy. In theory, selling books is difficult to make a lot of money, but it should also be easy to make ends meet. But the scholar was obstinate and had no ulterior motives, so naturally he couldn't make much money. Instead, he lost everything in just a few days. Fortunately, there is a female frequent visitor in the bookstore who often speaks warmly and comforts. In one go and two go, the two of them looked at each other right. But who would have expected that a maid came to deliver a message the day before yesterday, saying that her young lady had been arranged by her mother to marry a wealthy family in the city as her aunt. The private relationship between the two can only be continued in the next life. Please don't forget yourself, the scholar. Seeing this, Tao Qian glanced at the countertop. There was indeed an empty wine glass and a paper bag with some suspicious powder remaining on it. Obviously, the scholar's understanding of this matter and the word next life is probably sacrificing oneself for love. Knowing one's destiny, why not try to resist it? Tao Qian sighed and then said. With a sigh, Tao Qian didn't think much. This scholar took his own life and left behind a body, which was considered a great gift to Tao Qian. Tao Qian stood in place for a few minutes, waiting for his soul to fully merge with his new body without any barriers, before starting to walk around the bookstore. In less than 10 seconds, he walked back and forth. This shop is pitifully small, and the layout is also simple. There are 3 rows of wooden bookshelves in front, a low wooden platform for stacking books in the middle, and then a checkout counter. There is a small compartment at the back for sleeping. Not long after, Tao Qian became completely familiar with his new identity and new residence. Not long ago, he was beheaded and just reincarnated and resurrected. This life and death thrilling experience is enough to make people see through the world. Arriving at Tao Qian's place relieved him of any drowsiness. Using the light, Tao Qian first washed up and sorted out the scattered books on the floor. Finally, following the memories in his mind, he took out a book from the counter drawer that was neither thick nor thin, similar to an account book, but not much different from a diary. Although Tao Qian can easily access physical memory, it is not a first-hand experience, and many details such as prices are vague. Having a diary to deepen learning is incredibly convenient. Speaking of which, if the new identity is a 3-no personnel, Tao Qian will definitely flee and hide as soon as possible. But now that I am lucky enough to have a body that can be exposed, I should naturally adapt and settle down first. This world is very similar to the end of a certain dynasty in my previous life, but in many other places it is completely different. Leaving aside social patterns and historical customs, the incredibly real demons and mysterious phenomena alone demonstrate how deep and dangerous the water in this world is. When I first arrived, I had to wear a layer of skin to survive. Whispered a few words. Later, Tao Qian casually opened the account book. In the 9th year of the heavenly mandate, on the 3rd day of the 6th month, it will be clear and windless. Although Tao Zhiming has not yet started a family, he has already established a business. The Changsheng bookstore officially opened today, and friends from all over the world gathered to generously donate, selling a large number of miscellaneous books. A friend of mine, Gusherlan, specially purchased the book Yuman Tang Notes from my Shenzhou store. This book was written by a great Confucian scholar whom I admire the most, with a huge cost of 20 yuan. Go brother said that he is currently in a tight budget. Can he borrow it for a few days to repay the debt? How can we refuse and willingly accept the elegant things among scholars? In the evening, I gathered in Deshun with my friends and had a lively gathering. There were 2 dishes called bamboo fungus abalone and dragon beard shark's fin, which were very delicious. When asked, it turned out to be ordered by Brother Gu. It was indeed a young master from a wealthy family who knew how to eat them, but the prices of the dishes were really higher. Only these 2 dishes cost 2 yuan, which is really a big dish. Received today. 10 yuan and 60.4 cents. Today's expenditure. 12 yuan. On June 4th, there is a gentle breeze and rain. There are fewer guests today, but the drizzle is continuous and the good time has taken away half a day of leisure from the floating life. Fortunately, I also sold a book called Shin Yuan by Tan and received a total of 1 yuan and 2 jiao. The main expenses are for meals and books, combined into a total of 10 copper coins. June 5th, heavy rain. Just as I opened the door in the early morning, I had bad news. A friend came to inform me that the Jesslin family was empty. It turned out that this family had already decided to move to the provincial capital to settle down. The day before yesterday, I heard that I had opened a new bookstore and came to borrow the most expensive brochure from me. They made up their mind to rely on my account. Borrowing instead of being a thief is too despicable. If I encounter him again, I will definitely smash his dog head. Too angry, the store only opened for half a day. Sell a copybook and receive 8 copper coins. Today I paid for the main meal and 8 more, totaling 2 cents. On June 6th, there is no wind or rain. A new tofu shop has opened on the street corner. The shop owner is a lady with a decent appearance and extraordinary figure, who can be called a beauty among tofu girls. There were too many buyers, and it was difficult to squeeze in. I only bought a few pieces of crushed tofu, which was also sweet. I sold a few handwritten copies today and received 2 cents, 2 copper coins. Expenditures for main meals and theater performances, combined for a total of 7 cents. On June 7th, it's sunny and the scorching sun is shining brightly. Few people came to buy books today, only the shop next door selling strange stones came here to pick up the new stories of cutting lanterns that I had booked yesterday. I hurriedly flipped through a few pages, all of which were mysterious stories of human, demon, and ghost love, and there was still room for observation. Not long after the shop owner left, a pharmacy owner from the neighboring street came to my door again and asked me to go to the bookstore to purchase books such as Spring in the Jade Chamber, and Nine-Tailed Turtle, and advanced more than 10 yuan in advance. I didn't expect such vulgar books to be expensive, and there are so many enthusiasts. If I buy more and then sell it, wouldn't it be? No, I can't. I am a scholar, and I must not humiliate myself. Although I received a lot of money today, I still have to take it out to buy books tomorrow, totaling 15 yuan and 70.6 cents. I'm in a good mood and have eaten more. The lamb in Tianju is so delicious that I spent a total of 6 cents. June 9th, sunny. Today there were a few more customers, and many children's books and calligraphy books were sold. I am very relieved. I heard that a new Western restaurant has opened at the street corner. The owner of the restaurant was originally an apprentice at the provincial capital restaurant, studying under a blonde-haired and blue-eyed old barbarian. The neighboring Caishikou restaurant just went to eat it and praised the delicious butter bread and fried pork chops. I don't believe in this simple and vulgar dish name. Tomorrow, I will also try these Western devilish dishes. Received today. 1 yuan and 2 jiao, 6 copper coins. Today's expenditure. Triangle. The book in Tao Qian's hand may seem like a ledger, but in reality, it leans more towards a diary. Perhaps because it was originally written by oneself. At first, it was unfamiliar, but upon seeing the back, Tao Qian was completely immersed. During the process, Tao Qian's sense of unfamiliarity with this world quickly dissipated, and a sense of realism and integration gradually emerged. Newcomer's new story, continue watering, don't stop. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Immortal Dutch Water. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 3 Immortal. Dutch water. In the early morning, a thin mist mixed with smoke and fire drifted throughout Shenzhou County. The various breakfast stalls were the first wave of excitement, followed by the market. Various shops also opened one after another, and the entire county suddenly became lively. Caishikou Street is the least eye-catching, in a shop called Changsheng Bookstore. Tao Qian slowly closed the account book and exhaled a mouthful of accumulated night air. After staying up all night, I finished reading this diary and ledger. Tao Qian has gained an understanding of the world's prices and many details, and has seamlessly integrated into his new identity. I stood up straight and went to the back bunk first. When he returned, he had an extra green cloth bag in his hand, opened the bag, and listened to the jingling sound for a while. During the break, there were a total of a few silver coins, and dozens of copper coins on the counter. Tao Qian counted first and frowned. Then, he counted again, wrinkling even tighter. I didn't count them 3 times again, but I put these silver coins back into my wallet with a precious and heavy heart, muttering helplessly. A family's savings are almost lost in half a month, with only 8 yuan and 7 jiao left, plus 50.3 copper coins. He's really a spendthrift. 1 copper dollar can buy 10 8 sugars, or a piece of cake with a refueling stick, another one, and a bowl of soup with pepper. It seems that the purchasing power is still good, but it can't stand the total assets. Leaving aside expenses such as food, clothing, and entertainment, the monthly rent for this store alone is 20 yuan, and there is also the biggest item of purchasing books. That means I'm very poor now. Tao Qian is holding the purse and roast about his original body. Based on current prices, it is difficult for him to maintain this Changsheng bookstore from closing for a month. The only thing that comforted Tao Qian was that there was actually a way to make money hidden in the ledger. It's just that the original owner felt it was insulting to be gentle, so he didn't continue. The so-called appetite and sex refers to satisfying one's spiritual life after being full, which is nothing more than normal. How could it be disrespectful to be refined? If you don't have any business later, go to the bookstore and buy the entire set of Shadows of Flowers Across the Curtain, Illusion of the Empty Sky, Companion of Love and Fragrance, and A True History of Zen. Quietly promote it. I am the most beautiful kid on this vegetable market street. Shenzhou is sullen, thinking that these books are too vulgar. He scolded the guests who came to his door, but quietly recorded the book names in his diary. Sure enough, those who write diaries can be serious people. Tao Qian puts his wallet into his arms and uses roast to dilute his confusion after crossing the Rebirth. Perhaps it's because it has become an undead monster, or because the mood is too emotional. Sleepless all night, Tao Qian felt no drowsiness. Listening to the various sounds of selling outside, Tao Qian stood up and washed himself up. A few minutes later, he solemnly opened the door. The sky was shining brightly in front of me, and the lively scene rushed forward with a strong sense of reality. Although it only looks like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, this county town is already bustling with people. Tao Qian was stunned for a few seconds, then slowly and seriously, capturing many of the scenes ahead in his own eyes. A wonton stall with many customers in the hot air. The old beggar was lying on the ground at the entrance of the alley, struggling to pick up a broken piece of food. More than 10 refugees who fled from other places and entered the city early in the morning, dressed in rags and with yellow and thin faces. A barber knocking on a lock on the street and a vendor selling various items. A wealthy young man who is rampaging through the city, trying to ride a foreign toy called a bicycle. Not far away, in the attic of a modern restaurant by the window, there are 2 slim ladies dressed in cool clothes, holding coffee cups and chatting comfortably. New-style soldiers who came from outside the city, wearing military uniforms and carrying rifles, riding high horses, and crossing the main street. A martial arts figure dressed in short combat, with a strong physique and carrying various unusual weapons. Seemingly right but not right. Tao Qian's expression was complex, and he couldn't help but sigh. Just as I was about to do something, a gurgling sound came from my stomach. This prompt sound reminded Tao Qian that he had become a human again now. Without resistance, Tao Qian went a little further and bought a big bag of mantou on the other side of the street. I didn't walk fast along the way, imitating the old-fashioned style of a scholar walking in my original body. When I returned to the bookstore, there was just one mantou in my hand, and I ate it with Yuan for 3 or 2 bites. It's impossible for anyone to come and buy books in the early morning, but Tao Qian doesn't intend to be idle either. Roll up your sleeves and start organizing this messy layout of the bookstore. Although they are currently very poor, at least they are also people with industries. During the process of organizing, Tao Qian occasionally picked up a book he was interested in and hurriedly scanned it, mostly consisting of supernatural tales, extraordinary storybooks, bizarre documentaries, and so on. His idea is to see if he can glimpse into this world, or rather, the world of extraordinary cultivation. Having experienced decapitation, immortality, and rebirth, along with 2 memories of the local indigenous people, Tao Qian speculates that there are demons, ghosts, and immortals in this world, and it is highly likely that there are also human cultivators. His current goal is to settle down and survive well. If there is an opportunity to understand the truth and touch upon the extraordinary, he does not intend to miss it. Unfortunately, after half an hour of busy work, he didn't notice anything. It's normal. In general, whether it's cultivators or demons, there may be some who mix with humans, but there must be a barrier between them. Even if an ordinary person has the intention to find it, they may not be able to achieve their wish. In this regard, it is important to pay attention to so-called opportunities. Of course, working hard for half an hour also pays off. At least Tao Qian has completely figured out his own bookstore. This small shop mainly focuses on beginners' books, calligraphy, and its profits also come from this type. Other books, such as travelogues, novels, Chinese almanac maps, and so on, are all classified as miscellaneous books in their original form. It is worth praising that all the books purchased were genuine. Of course, this is probably one of the reasons why he lost all his family. After packing up, Tao Qian began to operate. I don't know if I changed my soul, but it also caused me to transfer. Throughout the morning, although the business of Qingyu bookstore was not as good as those at the crossroads, Tao Qian also received many people coming and going. At noon, Tao Qian finally got free and picked up his abacus, clattering it with a clatter. A total of 10 books were sold, including 6 copies of 4 Words of Dui Xiang, 2 calligraphy books, 1 almanac, and 1 copy of Zhu Gong's Travels. The total amount received was 1 yuan and 2 jiao. That pair of Xiang Xian is said to be a teaching aid required by a private school teacher. Indeed, no matter what era it was, selling textbooks was more profitable. Unfortunately, I didn't bring Huang Gang's secret book when I traveled. Tao Qian was muttering. Suddenly, a familiar sound of bang hiss came from the doorway. As soon as Tao Qian looked up, he saw 2 figures, each carrying something and standing at the door with a smile on his face. These 2 people both look around 30 years old, serious young and middle-aged. A person wearing a round-necked long shirt, a warm green velvet hat, with straight features, small eyes, and a shrewd face, resembling Lin Yongjian. The other one is a long robe and a coat, with an 8-character beard, which looks a bit cunning. Tao Qian's mind, corresponding memories come to mind. Coincidentally, both of them are his neighbors. Last night, Tao Qian also read written records about the 2 of them. Li Sanyu, the owner of Qishir's shop who bought Night Talk of Cutting Lanterns. Jia Chang, a pharmacy owner who is looking to purchase books such as Yu Lu Chun. Tao Shusheng, your business has been good all morning. I can see that it has been made over 10 times back and forth, which is worth celebrating and celebrating. Aren't we here now? Tao Shusheng didn't have lunch, did he? Our brothers will treat you first, and you need to make up for it next time. However, this person's mouth is soft on us. The scholar still needs to help us run errands when he has time. Neither of us brothers has collected all 10 forbidden books. Hee, that's right, that's right. These two people seem to be engaged in cross-talk, speaking while walking inside completely impolitely. We each moved a small stable and tidied up a piece of land on the low wooden platform. Arranged the braised beef, fried peanuts, and other food brought by each individual. At this moment, Tao Qian's attention fell on the 3 round glass bottles brought by the two of them. One of the bottles has been opened and contains a light green transparent liquid, with less noticeable bubbles bubbling up. A strange sense of familiarity immediately surged in, and Feizhai was happy. A few words were about to come to his mouth. Seeing Tao Qian's curious expression, Li Sanyu and Jia Chang immediately exchanged a glance and raised their eyebrows, showing a proud expression. The Li Sanyu, who resembled Lin Yongjian, pointed to the glass bottle and proudly said. Tao Shusheng, who has seen many things, is confused. This is just a foreign thing. The name, Dutch water, is said to have been passed down from Western ghosts and animals. Last year, a large merchant in the provincial capital opened a factory to produce this, which quickly became popular throughout the entire provincial capital. From high-ranking officials to traffickers, they couldn't help but taste it. The branch factory opened in Xuanxian County a few days ago and officially opened today. However, for now, it only serves high-end hotels and VIP guests. The two of us noticed that you have been feeling down lately, so we specifically asked the boss of Dishunju to help us get 3 bottles. Come and taste it quickly. Those who have tasted it say that this thing makes their stomachs boil with anger, and they are as happy as immortals. It's called, bringing energy. Tao Qian was initially a bit uncomfortable with the two's naturally familiar behavior, but as the conversation continued, he quickly became familiar with them as well. The original memory takes effect at this moment. Tao Shusheng is obstinate and inflexible, without any flexibility. The bookstore was hit hard when it first opened, indicating that he doesn't have many true friends. Not to mention being a fox friend, he must also be sincere. Instead, I became familiar with some vulgar and forbidden books with 2 neighboring store owners. The 2 of them were slightly older and considered shrewd small businessmen, both of whom could see that Tao Shusheng was a kind and valuable person who often took care of 1 or 2. Of course, no matter what, they are not relatives and cannot prevent their original self-settlement at the appropriate time. Listening to Li Sanyu's words, Tao Qian naturally expressed doubts based on his original memory. More naturally, curiosity and disagreement appeared in the eyes. Throw the abacus in your hand, walk over directly, pick up the glass bottle, and first say. Happy as a fairy. I don't believe it. Isn't it just a bottle of water? After speaking, Tao Qian skillfully poured the mouth of the bottle into his mouth. Tons, tons, tons. Hiccup. Take 1 breath and dry the whole bottle. The expression that was originally somewhat worried suddenly relaxed. Tao Qian smiled at the corners of his mouth and gave a thumbs up to the truly bewildered 2, then said comfortably, I don't know if it's immortal, but it's really exciting. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Book Boats and Fishing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Book Boats and Fishing. Tao Qian himself did not expect to feel the joy of a fat house again in this unfamiliar world. However, to be honest, this soda called Dutch water doesn't taste as good as Fat House Happy Water, roughly equivalent to lemon-flavored soda. But since it's all out of the world, having soda would be great. He didn't dwell on why this world was so similar to the end of a certain dynasty in his previous life, but there were many details that were completely different. Not to mention anything else, history alone has blinded Tao Qian. Although he is blind to history, he is certain that there was no millennium dynasty called the Eternal Heaven in his past life. The current situation is extremely chaotic and complex. Although the court called the Heavenly Court has a vast territory and appears to be very powerful on the outside, it has actually developed an aging atmosphere. There are countless strong enemies surrounded from the outside, and warlords are rising from all sides, dividing the territory. There are also natural and man-made disasters, as well as various plagues raging. Tao Qian really wants to learn more details, and talking to two local indigenous people is undoubtedly a good opportunity. However, as the saying goes, saying more makes more mistakes, Tao Qian does not intend to deliberately guide the topic. Just play the role of the original person with a style that cherishes words like gold, and occasionally insert a sentence to lead to the information you want to obtain. Unexpectedly, as soon as he made up his mind and sat down, the two of them directly aimed their spears at Tao Qian. It seems that it is related or genuinely concerned. The owner of the Qishir shop, Li Sanyu, who seemed to be Lin Yongjian's younger brother, ate a slice of braised beef and swallowed it. With his small eyes burning, he looked at Tao Qian and asked seriously. Tao Shusheng, I see that you have been selling books seriously all morning, which is completely different from your past laziness and perfunctory behavior. Are you planning to live a good life? If that's the case, I have a few business tips to share with you. I won't charge you too much money either. A meal of lamb hot pot in Tianju can soothe my brother's stomach. Just as Li Sanyu finished speaking, Jia Chang, who had a cunning expression on his face, suddenly smiled. His expression was filled with a hint of teasing, as he picked up a peanut and threw it into his mouth before saying, "Coincidentally, Boss Li has some tips for making money, and I also have a few. So let's give them to Tao Shusheng together. However, older brother, I don't have a strong appetite and I really want to satisfy my eyes. I heard that a type of color page advertisement has become popular in the provincial capital, which can magically print various colors onto promotional pages. Those big chambers of commerce play. It is said that they can directly draw those beautiful and charming big horns, which are exactly like real people, and even more charming. Let's just talk about this Guancheng brand Dutch water. The big boss actually invited Huang Yueying to be the spokesperson for Lao Shizhi and even painted 18 different positions of promotional pages. I heard friends in the provincial capital describe it as a sizzling bubble. Although Xuanxian County has ports and can be considered prosperous in nearly a dozen counties, it cannot compare to the provincial capital. It's really regrettable that those things haven't reached us yet. However, it's not without a chance. I heard that many booksellers sell their promotional pages and posters as integrated booklets, and although the asking price is high, it is definitely worth it. The bookstore is about to open soon. I don't have a book certificate and can't board those big book ships. Tao Shusheng is also going to purchase goods anyway. It's a good time to work hard and help my brother search for it. The best one is Huang Yueying. If there are any more by Feifeng, Li Zhuzhu, Feng Heng, Hua Rongrong, I won't mind either. More is better. After speaking these words, not only Tao Qian, but also Li Sanyu on the side cast a contemptuous glance at this scumbag. Then, turning to Tao Qian, he added, if you don't mind working hard, help your brother collect a copy as well. The book resources are not a problem, my brother has plenty of money. Two old men. Tao swallowed a heartless roast to his mouth. I can't help but sigh in my heart, has there been a spokesperson female celebrity effect in this era? Disdain returns to disdain, Tao Qian actually wants to cough. After all, there is no grudge against the white and shiny silver coins. These two older brothers seem to have a really good relationship with their original body. Seeing them perk up, they both want to give serious guidance. After only a moment of thought, Tao Qian imitated the scholar and stood up directly, bowing to the two of them seriously, saying, please don't hesitate to give me your guidance. The scholar is extremely grateful. Seeing Tao Qian show this posture, both of them were in a great mood. Still Li Sanyu, he sat down with Tao Qian and ordered a small mahjong before saying, Tao Shusheng, although I am best at selling stones, the so-called buying and selling is actually just about those things. You insist on legitimate books, so I won't tell you the truly profitable and easy tricks. What you should do most now is to expand your expenses. You can't just sit in the store and sell, it's too foolish. Look at the Shiyu Hall and Dogwon Hall on the main street. Apart from the shops, people also have connections with official schools and private schools of various ethnic groups in the city. They directly bring books to sell, and they even remember the addresses of most of the scholars, great scholars, and old scholars' homes. If there are new or secret books, they will directly send assistants to sell them. If you have nothing to do with it and can't wipe your face off, then take a different approach. Shiyu and Dogwon are limited by official regulations, and the categories of books are restricted to a certain extent. Your small bookstore doesn't have that restriction. You might as well reduce the number of classics and historical works, and focus more on novels such as supernatural tales, martial arts, human demons, and love. In addition, you can add Chinese almanac calligraphy books and commonly used medical books, which can be sold at a small profit. Although it's difficult to get rich, it's not a problem to have enough food and clothing. After Li Sanyu finished speaking, Jia Chang, holding his 8-character beard, nodded in agreement. Then, with a more proud expression, he said loudly, "Boss Li, this is a safe solution, but I think you can try to stimulate it a bit more. You also know that due to those 2 failed wars, many young high-ranking officials in the court began to engage in various foreign movements, claiming that they wanted to learn all the teachings and secrets of Western ghosts and animals, and enrich our knowledge base in the Heavenly Kingdom. We don't need to pay attention to those official schemes, as long as we know that even in Shenzhou County, there are many people who are interested in those Western ghosts and animals. As the saying goes, you only need to buy some translated Western books, which are definitely the only ones in the city, and don't worry about sales. But you need to act quickly. I'll give you some insider information. Our newly appointed Governor General of Southern Guangdong, Mr. Ji, defeated a group of Taiping Rebellion army a few days ago, and then annihilated a group of Demon God army. His reputation is high and his power is also great. He was inspired by the novel weapons and theories of Western ghosts and beasts, and instructed his own nephew to establish a new Dexing bookstore. He translated and printed a batch of Western books, and you can inquire about them when you go to the bookstore. If you can book some, the profit should not be small. By the way, in addition to this trick, there are also 2 stable ways to make money. The Pictorial Girls brochure and the pornographic prohibited book. If you are willing to let go of your pedantry, you can also give it a try. Both brothers are indeed knowledgeable. A brief conversation just now has surpassed years of studying, and the scholar is extremely grateful. Tomorrow at Taiyuan residence, I will invite my 2 brothers to taste lamb hot pot. At the entrance of Qingyu bookstore, Tao Qian pulled 2 people. After a free flattery, the 2 unscrupulous merchants who helped with their strategies left satisfied. Of course, many of Tao Qian's words are sincere. Although he has 2 memories, he has no real sense of many things and details. I just had a conversation and added these things. He has a relatively detailed understanding of the Changsheng dynasty and the current situation. Standing at the door, Tao Qian pondered for a few seconds. Quickly walking back to the store, I took a piece of white paper and wrote, "Go out and buy a book, then open it tomorrow. We will have new products and look forward to your patronage." 16 characters are easy to understand and the font is straight. Inheriting his original muscle memory, Tao Qian effortlessly acquired a strong foundation in calligraphy skills. Satisfied, he clapped his hands and turned around, then closed the store door and pasted paper on it. There's no need to tidy up anymore, anyway, the total amount of money is 9 yuan, 90.3 jiao, 50. 3 copper coins, all carried in my arms. After confirming that there was nothing missing, Tao Qian identified the direction and walked briskly towards the bustling port area of Shenzhou County, known as the Shenzhou Wharf. He went there not to move bricks or goods, but to purchase goods. It's quite unbelievable. But the bookstore in Shenzhou County is indeed at the dock. Even not only book trading, but also physical trading centers such as bulk agricultural products, salt and iron, coal, etc., are located in that area. Shenzhou County is actually a bustling port town. Of course, it's called a bookstore. Essentially, it is just a matter of several large book ships coming from the provincial capital stopping at Shenzhou County at specific times. The time is not long or short, just enough for 7 or 8 bookstores of all sizes in the county to board the ship for procurement, and occasionally the owners of some small bookstores from 10 miles and 8 townships come to visit. The so-called book ship naturally refers to a ship specialized in selling books. This can also be considered one of the characteristics of this province. The publishing and printing industry in the provincial capital is extremely developed, coupled with extremely convenient waterway transportation, far exceeding land transportation, which has given rise to the special product of book ships. Every once in a while, book boats departing from the provincial capital will pass through various ports and distribute various books and newspapers to various parts of the province through the hands of book shop owners or other individuals with book certificates. The time was originally unpredictable, sometimes it would take several days, and sometimes it could even take more than 10 days. However, from my original memory, it can be seen that in recent times, the book ship has set off almost once a day. And it's not just about book trading. In other aspects, it has also become exceptionally prosperous and active. This seems somewhat contradictory. Nowadays, warlords are rampant and chaotic parties are rampant. The court is obviously in its old age, so why is it becoming even more prosperous? Looking back and forth. Tao Qian muttered to himself that he had arrived at the very center of Caishikou Street. Suddenly, he seemed to feel something. Slowly looking up, I happened to see the wooden stake nearly 10 meters high ahead. Soul summoning stick. Before Tao Qian complained about the name of the broken pole, a hot wind blew. Immediately, I saw more than 10 anti-corrosion treated heads swaying in the wind on that pole. This can be considered a thrilling and terrifying scene, but it failed to elicit even a single scream. On the street, there is a sea of people. Except for Tao Qian, everyone seems to have become accustomed to it. Yesterday's hustle and bustle is yesterday's, and the end has come to an end. Tao Qian first glanced at his own head, which was covered in scars. His eyes, which had been staring until death, were now sewn together. It's not just him, the other few martyrs who were beheaded and didn't close their eyes were treated the same way. Tao Qian did not continue to walk, but silently counted. How many are missing, With this thought in mind, Tao Qian immediately looked under a cool shed not far from the soul summoning pole. There was a mottled wooden table, and behind it was a black-faced old official dressed in crooked clothes, revealing half of his chest and dozing off. In the mind, corresponding memories emerge. After all, I opened a bookstore on the street for a period of time, and I already know everyone I should know. Who can speak and who cannot, Tao Qian is also aware at this moment. Tao Qian walked over and lightly tapped on the table. The old official seemed to have not fallen asleep at all, and the next second he opened his cloudy eyes. Instead of looking at each other, Tao Qian said, "Mr. Yuan, I heard that these people's heads need to wait for 7 days before they can be redeemed and buried with money. Why is it that after only 1 day, there is less? Is there any accommodation from above? If possible, I would like to do some good deeds, I don't know." Tao Qian didn't continue because he noticed that the old official in front of him suddenly stared at him with a strange gaze. However, Tao Qian remained calm and had nothing to fear. Being beheaded but not dead, possessed and reborn. It's so convoluted and eerie that even an old official can see through it, so Tao Qian also recognizes it. Of course, what truly gives Tao Qian confidence is his original memory. This old official is recognized as a good person on this street. Sure enough, the old official couldn't see through Tao Qian's flawless portrayal, and after staring for a while, he knew that the scholar's pedantry had been violated again. The black-faced old official gave Tao Qian a mocking smile, slapped his earwax, smelled it, bounced it away, and grinned his yellow teeth before saying, "Accommodation. Why are you such a naive scholar? Looking at your foolishness, the old man, let me remind you that if you want to do good deeds, you can go to the flower alley, those flower boats on the seeking Immortal River, or you can go to the beggar's alley for a walk. In short, this matter must not be interfered with. Those guys from the county government are all focused on fishing for big fish. You foolish fish, stay away from me so that I don't even know how to die. Go away, don't disturb me to sleep well, it's unlucky." The worldview is unfolding, end of this chapter. Chapter 5. Ancient Edition Blind Box. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Ancient Edition Blind Box. The black-faced old official kept emitting bad luck, which made Tao Qian lose face immediately. With a cold snort, he dropped the phrase, "unreasonable," and quickly walked away, swinging his sleeves, with a demeanor reminiscent of a shameless and pedantic scholar. However, no one noticed that Tao Qian's eyes showed a complex expression of helplessness, happiness, and anger. He wanted to redeem the heads of the martyrs and bury them, but it was not a momentary impulse, nor was it because he had acquired the memory and residual formula of that martyr. At least this was not the main reason. What drives Tao Qianxiang to do so is ideological recognition. Unfortunately, the timing is not right. The information that the old official accidentally leaked was already a life-saving reminder. Fishing. Either someone fled when the stronghold was uprooted, and the dog official in Xuanxian County wanted to set a trap and wait for the rabbit. Or it was even more ambitious, pulling out Xuanxian stronghold and thinking about other local heroes, hoping to lure the snake out of the hole. The latter is more likely, but no matter which one it is, I cannot appear in my current identity for the time being. And wait a little longer, then the soul summoning staff will definitely be updated and there will be a chance, at most, to break the wealth. With a surge of thoughts, Tao Qian temporarily suppressed his unwilling thoughts. Thinking of losing money, Tao Qian quickly realized that he was now a real poor person. Carrying all the family property in his arms, it was only over 9 silver dollars. According to my memory, there was a more robust and diligent porter at the Xuanxian dock who earned a monthly salary of about 6 yuan. The shopkeepers of silk shops, pawn shops, and pharmacies in the city also earned a monthly salary of 8 to 9 yuan. If you meet a kind-hearted boss, you can also earn 10 yuan. At the thought of this, Tao Qian's straight back curved a bit and couldn't help but sigh. Amidst the crowd, Tao Qian headed towards his destination while contemplating a plan to make money. To be honest, the free money-making tips given by Li Sanyu and Jia Chang, two unscrupulous merchants, at noon, are not very rare and exclusive skills. But if Tao Qian thinks as the owner of Qingyu bookstore, it must be acknowledged that all methods are effective. As the two of them said, earning some food and clothing money is not a difficult task. Tao Qian was not as cliché as his original self, and he didn't intend to refuse such a lovely thing as silver dollars, so he didn't even hesitate to struggle and headed straight to the bookstore by the dock. He plans to follow all the first and second plans. Human monster and ghost love, myths and supernatural stories have entered a wave. A whole set of gaudy forbidden books has been stolen, some words of pictorial girls have also been collected, and all translation books of Western ghosts and animals have also been put on the table. Today, the whole set of household property will not be spent, and at most a few copper coins will be left to buy mantu. As for the agreement to invite the two elder brothers Taiyan to live in Lam Hotpot tomorrow. It's reasonable for me, as a poor scholar, to have a second credit. Tao Qian couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth as he thought this way. However, soon Tao Qian remembered his identity as a time traveler, and his thoughts suddenly became more divergent. Yeah, I'm a traveler. I've only heard of thrilling travelers, not those who died of poverty. Let me think, in this era of the world, what are the best ways to make money? Selling stockings. No, I have to become a warlord at least to have room to operate. Besides, who knows where the Westerners in this world have climbed the technology tree? What if they have already casually tied up the lace, black and white straps? Wen Chao Gong. It seems possible. Although books like The Rise of Great Powers That Can Gain Fame cannot be copied due to completely different historical patterns, there is still great hope for books like Immortal Heroes and Mysteries. After a period of lustful imagination, Tao Qianren had already left the vegetable market street, passed through a small part of the city, and quickly arrived at his destination. Searching for Immortal Wharf. Although Tao Qian had already read the appearance of the dock in advance in his original memory, he couldn't help but show his exclusive expression as he truly saw it at this moment. Due to factors such as the execution ground in the vegetable market street and the living conditions of ordinary people in the county, Tao Qian assumes that this world is too backward compared to his previous life. But what he saw in front of him made Tao Qian feel that he was wrong. The port ahead, where rivers intersect, with hundreds of boats and thousands of sails, and a surge of people. In addition to wooden sailboats of all sizes, in the deeper water area in the distance, steam iron boats emitting black gas also appeared. The bustle on the dock is far from comparable to that of a vegetable market street. There are porters wearing shorts or bare tops, various vendors, wealthy merchants, martial artists, officials and soldiers, and even many Westerners with blonde hair and red hair. Xuanxian County is like this. What about the provincial capital, as well as the magical and imperial capitals that I have never heard of before? Tao Qian suddenly felt his blood boil. This world may be more magnificent and vast than he imagined. Since I've been here once, it's not easy to explore and experience it, isn't it a big loss? The thought fell and Tao Qian smiled, not continuing to observe the magnificent scenery in front of him. Follow the memory in your mind and walk towards the side of the dock. As a significant port town, Xuanxian County's main dock area belongs to major businesses such as salt, iron, and coal. Book boats, flower boats, and the like can only be found in small corners. That's right, these two are together. When Tao Qian arrived at the place, he had not yet approached the several large book boats, but he was the first to see about 7 or 8 beautifully dressed and enchanting flower boats parked in the river bay. After getting closer, it was even more satisfying. On one of the ships, a woman dressed in cool clothes was washing her hair under the care of a maid. The woman was at most in her 20s, wearing a purple sheer coat with a faintly visible brocade belly pocket. When she bent down with her back to the shore, the curvature of her waist and abdomen was extremely astonishing. Hissing. Tao Qian's ear was filled with the sound of inhaling air. Looking around, I saw the men beside me, regardless of their wealth or strength, all with a painful and helpless expression, bending down. Nevertheless, one by one they stubbornly raised their heads to look, their posture resembling that of a stretched turtle. Tao Qian went deep into the play, and finally hurriedly glanced at the ship, taking note of its name, Huanqi. Turning his head, he scanned the group of old perverts with disdainful eyes, and soon dropped a sentence. Shameful and refined. As the words fell, without looking back, they headed towards the large boats with shallow draft in the left river bend. The people who ate his backstabbing roast were not upset. After a few reluctant glances, many people followed. None of them are poor. From the perspective of clothing, everyone is much richer than Tao Qian, and unlike ordinary merchants such as Li Sanyu and Jia Chang, the people who come here have a slight aroma of books, dressed elegantly, and have gentle manners. The rule of the book ship. To get on board, one must have a book certificate. This item is not exclusive to bookstore owners like Tao Qian, in fact, many people are eligible to obtain it. For example, officials, students, jurin, and so on. There are also descendants of local aristocrats, folk scholars, calligraphers, and so on. Apart from bookstore and bookstore owners, everyone else can be collectively referred to as book collectors, and they are actually the most popular and wealthy guests among book ship owners. On the other hand, owners of small bookstores like Tao Qian, although occupying a wholesale position, are all stingy and have little purchasing power, so they are at the bottom of the book ship's disdain chain. In general, Tao Qian should be timid and hide at the end. But the original person is not like this. Tao Qian had no choice but to learn and swaggered over, selecting the largest book ship called the number 1 scholar. After presenting a certificate issued by the government, he stepped on the ladder and stared a few steps up. As soon as he stood firm, he saw a boy in his teens welcoming him. This book boy looks young, but his eyesight is extremely sharp. At a glance, he can distinguish Tao Qian's identity and financial resources. The bright smile on his face, which had just bloomed, turned around and gave it to the 7 or 8 descendants of the noble family who came up behind Tao Qian, led by a long-bearded old man who looked like a great scholar. There were other welcoming book boys on the deck, although they cheered around, their reactions were also the same. They all went to welcome those big shop owners, generous book collectors, and aristocratic scholars and so on. Poor scholar. Please help yourself. Fortunately, Tao Qian is not a polite person either. Directly grabbing a book boy, he pulled out a stack of book lists from his hand, and without looking back, he walked towards the main cabin where guests were waiting. As I walked, I lowered my head to look at the directory. The list of books is classified according to the collection of classics and histories, various collections of books, novels and operas, and miscellaneous notes on pen and talk. In addition to the classification of major categories, various sub-categories are also subdivided, and different printed versions are marked. If it's the original body, there's actually no need to go deeper. As long as you stand on the deck and pay directly for the order, you can soon disembark with a large package on your back. If you buy more, the boss will even invite a laborer to help with the delivery. But this time, it was Tao Qian himself who came. A book ship is like a small library. Moreover, these book ships not only sell normal books, but also send people to purchase books from various places along the port, especially keeping an eye on the isolated secret books left by the ancestors of poor families. Therefore, these book ships often have valuable, rare and special good books. You can buy things like human demon ghost romance, vulgar forbidden books, and illustrated newspaper girls, at any time. Since you're here, let's first see if you can pick up any leaks and also verify some things. Those supernatural beings, supernatural practices, and other beings, if they leave traces on the pages of the book. There should be a considerable opportunity to come into contact with them here, right? Tao Qian's eyes flickered with a hint of ambiguity, his gaze still instinctively wandering on the book list. Suddenly, he stopped in his tracks. My gaze fell on the end of the bibliography, where there was a line clearly in red font that was added later. Book. Wen Chu Fu Box. Tao Qian furrowed his brows slightly and casually grabbed a book boy who was talking incessantly about introducing the new version of the Enlightenment series to a bookstore owner. Pointing at those 4 words very directly, he asked. I know the music, but what does this lucky box mean? The book boy who was pulled down, although very dissatisfied, seemed to be carrying a task with him. As soon as a customer finally asked about a new sales project, their eyebrows and eyes immediately lit up. They excitedly introduced themselves to the surrounding customers, including Tao Qian, and said, Your esteemed guest, you have suddenly found something good. This is the latest project launched by our company, Juesher Barigan, and as you all know, our top scorer will go to various locations along the port to purchase the Lonely Book secret book. When it comes to the number of books collected, our province, and even the surrounding provinces, apart from the official libraries, our family ranks second, and perhaps no one dares to claim first. Our boss felt everyone's love for books and specially designed a novel gameplay. We have prepared a total of 1,000 Wen Chu Fu boxes for this trip, each containing 10 unknown books, including regular books, precious rare secret books, or promotional posters. The price of the lucky box is divided into 3 types. $1 silver, $2 silver, and $5 silver. Ladies and gentlemen, our host promises that even if we fail to issue a rare secret book worth 100 or 1,000 yuan, the price of the remaining books in the box will never be lower than the price of the lucky box itself. Wow! After the book boy finished his passionate sales pitch, Tao Qian immediately saw that many people around him had their eyes lit up and their breathing became faster. Tao Qian himself can't suppress the idea of roast at the moment. What kind of officials are they? They are really talented. Isn't this the ancient version of the blind box? End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Remnants of 100 Birds Play. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Remnants of 100 Birds Play. When the mischievous book boy revealed the Wen Chu Fu box routine, Tao Qian could already think of the reactions of those around him. There is the temptation of a solitary secret book, coupled with the book ship owner's promise of price protection, except for bookstore owners related to business, or some frugal scholars. Most of the others cannot bear it. Sure enough, Tao Qian looked around and immediately caught a pair of glowing eyes. Gambling harms people. Tao Qian's inner admonition was unheard of by anyone. In the main cabin where guests were waiting, only a "take us" sounded, and soon a large group of people, led by a few bookworms, rushed towards a certain cabin. Tao Qian roast, laughed and followed. Although I don't have much money in my pocket, it's always good to have some experience. Before long, a group of people appeared in a spacious and bright cabin, with a simple partition in front and 3 oversized bookshelves arranged steadily. On each bookshelf, there are a large number of minimalist but exquisite lacquered boxes, shining brightly in dazzling. The group of scholars, juren, aristocratic children, and calligraphers and painters had just stood at a stop when a robed shopkeeper with an elegant demeanor arrived in the partition. He first bowed to the crowd and then took the initiative to introduce himself loudly. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to experience the latest book purchasing program on our top scorer account. As this is the first time, the owner has specifically instructed that they will not make any profit from you. The total price of each lucky box and the books in the box here exceeds the price of the lucky box itself. The 3 bookshelves of Heaven, Earth, and Man are priced at 5 silver yuan, 2 silver yuan, and 1 silver yuan. This time it's sold out, and there will be another promotion at least half a month later. Everyone is someone who knows and loves books. I might as well reveal a little secret first. If there are any guests who are familiar with the host, don't say it's me. As far as I know, the owner has hidden the 3 rare secret volumes of Suiyuan Ishu, Jialan Kanjing, and Guixiong Chu, which are worth hundreds or even over 1,000 silver dollars, in the 3 blessing boxes of Heaven, Earth, and Humanity. In addition, there are also precious books such as Collection of Zen Thoughts, Jade Platform Ode, Mingqing Gong handwritten version of the Tao Te Ching, Wei Gong Jia Tu Shou Ban, and so on. What kind of secret book can be opened and its value depends on everyone's luck. Tao Qian, as a little transparent figure, couldn't help feeling a bit sour in the crowd at this moment. Now he has confirmed that the owner of this book ship is definitely an old and scrupulous merchant. Firstly, a novel blind box gameplay is presented, and now prizes are thrown as bait. In addition, the target audience here is extremely precise, and even screening is not necessary. Fishing. No, this guy is just fishing directly. As soon as Tao Qian's thought fell, a member of the crowd shouted loudly, "Let me come. I have always had good luck as a scholar. I even picked up a dime of silver when I went out this morning." As he spoke, a scholar dressed in a white robe, holding a fan in his hand, dressed in a coquettish manner, walked up. After knocking on the cabinet, he pawned it a few times and the 8 silver dollars were settled. Then, with a proud expression of not caring about Qian Shusheng's wealth, he said nervously, "Give me one of the 3 types of lucky boxes." The shopkeeper smiled and pulled back his sleeve, then turned his head to signal the two book boys to bring the human and earth blessing boxes respectively. He personally went to pick up a heavenly blessing box. Sanfu box, arranged in a straight line. The shopkeeper drew his palm and made a respectful gesture, inviting you to open it. The scholar instinctively imagined the gambler rubbing his hands like before opening the card. Realizing that it was indecent, he forced himself to show a nonchalant expression and used his folding fan to gently open the chevron-shaped lucky box. In the lacquer box, there are indeed 10 books placed. The scholar reached out and quickly flipped through the pages. Everyone here was considered a well-rounded scholar, and even with a glance, they could see it clearly. The books Jin Wen Mi Jian, Shi Hu Lu, Lu Family Instructions, Mo Du Za Ji are common books, and the total price is indeed more than $1 silver. In the crowd, someone gave a free appraisal. The scholar didn't see any surprise, pursed his lips and didn't tidy up. He opened the lucky box directly. This time, the hand speed was faster, and 10 books immediately appeared in everyone's eyes. At the beginning, everyone's expression remained unchanged, but soon after, the 10th book appeared, and the scholar almost let out a cry. The people around were all staring with round eyes and breathing rapidly. Someone directly envied and exclaimed. It is the Wei Gong Jia Tu Shou Ban, which was left by the great Confucian scholar Wei Gong 100 years ago. For the first time, only dozens of copies were printed, and most of them have been lost. Today, one copy is worth at least $200 silver. This guy, maybe he stepped on dog poop this morning. The scholar was in a very good mood at the moment and didn't mind the envy and slander from others. First, I put the precious book into my arms, and then with great anticipation, I rubbed my hands and opened the last box of heavenly blessings. This time, everyone stretched their necks and cast concerned glances. At first, it was mediocre, until the third to last book appeared, and the sound of the air conditioning system penetrated the cabin. It's Ode to Jade Terrace. Look at that appearance, it's worth at least $300 silver. Damn it, this guy definitely stepped on more than one pile of dog poop this morning. I also want to open it, shopkeeper. Give me one of them, no, 3 boxes for each one. And for me, give me all the lucky boxes with the highest quality, starting from 5. Renzi Hao Fu box, 20 boxes, hurry up. 3 types, 5 boxes each. Inside the cabin, some things are out of control. Tao Qian, this little transparent person, almost got squeezed out of the door. Looking at this group of scholars, and book collectors who had been polite and very refined before, now their behavior is no different from that of the old men and women who rush to buy discounted vegetables at the market. Tao Qian shook his head and directly roast, gambling is harmful. The so-called Wen Chu Fu box is essentially no different from gambling and lucky draws. Especially for the sake of promotion, this top scorer has used many tricks. For example, the scholar who opened 2 expensive books in succession at the beginning, in Tao Qian's view, could not escape the suspicion of childcare. Tao Qian, who had penetrated all the tricks, should have turned around and left at this moment. Open blind box. Do you think I have too much money? This idea had just emerged and had not yet fallen. Suddenly, Tao Qian's figure froze, his head turned back, and his gaze suddenly locked onto the person's bookshelf, the highest row, and the innermost box. His reaction originated from the familiar palpitations he felt at that moment. Tao Qian had the same feeling when he dug out the residual formula from the hero's mind before being beheaded. Extraordinary perception. Tao Qian's heart immediately stirred up some kind of speculation. Without waiting for him to think more, he caught a glimpse of the lacquered box on the bookshelf of that person's name disappearing at a visible speed to the naked eye. I'm afraid it won't be long before the box that makes him feel nervous will be bought. Biting his teeth, Tao Qian made a move. Hesitation. If it's a Tianzi lucky box worth $5 silver, maybe he really will. With just $1 in my hand, I can afford it. With this thought in mind, Tao Qian's supernatural power burst forth and he forcefully squeezed in again from the edge. Quickly approaching the cabinet, he roughly pulled a book boy and stuffed a $1 into his hand, then pointed to the target lacquered box and said, "That, I just need that." Although he received the money, the book boy who was almost choked up was not very happy. As he turned to fetch the fortune box for Tao Qian, he muttered silently, "Poor people are very particular. It depends on luck what books they can open, and it's useless to choose any strange position." Tao Qian didn't hear the schoolboy's roast, and his attention was all on the strange box. Not long after, he obtained his own lacquered box without any surprise or danger. He didn't open it immediately, but squeezed out again holding the lucky box. Verify. Verify first. If that palpitation, that perception, is the same as what I guessed. In this familiar yet unfamiliar, dark yet prosperous eerie world, I have a place to settle down, and even more possibilities. Whether it's golden fingers or cheats, come on, be more aggressive. Tao Qian chattered inwardly and went to the corner, rubbing his hands together like an extremely obsessed gambler. Fortunately, there are also many people in this cabin who behave like him, which can be said to be insignificant. With a click, Tao Qian opened the lucky box. You don't have to look at the book title or flip through the content. Tao Qian followed his inexplicable perception and directly locked onto the third book out of 10. Not taken out, only the first 2 books were opened, and my gaze fell on them. This is an extremely thin book, with a blue-black cover, old and wrinkled, but not very dirty. The title of the book is written in a crooked and twisted ancient seal script, resembling a tadpole. Thanks to some exploration of the original text, it is easily recognizable. 10 Dramas of Imitating Birds. A very peculiar book title, recognized by Tao Qian. Startled, Tao Qian flipped over to the first page. What catches the eye is a kind of picture booklet, which depicts some shameless figures, stubbornly holding their limbs and simulating some animals. This thing, also known by Tao Qian in his past life, is a sports manual similar to the 5-animal play. It should have nothing to do with the cultivation secrets. Tao Qianzheng was thinking so, but as he touched the book with his fingertips, suddenly, the whole person was in a daze, and the already crooked book title seemed to flow, as if it were an illusion, and then changed to a new name. 100 Birds Play. Without waiting for Tao Qian to ponder, a stream of information suddenly exploded in his mind. Initially chaotic, but immediately formed the strange format he had seen before. Title: Baiqin Opera, Incomplete Volume. Category: Foreign Objects. 80 years ago, a human cultivator named Old Man of 100 Birds created a method of cultivation called 100 Birds Play. By practicing this method, one can gradually transform into a human form, gain the power of 100 birds, and transform into the form of 100 birds. One can swim in the sky above and dive into a yellow spring below. This method harbors a hidden malice, causing a 100-bird rebellion, with tens of thousands of people affected, resulting in 9 out of 10 households in the Tuo County area. As a result, most of the books that have already been written have been destroyed, and only 1 or 2 books have been counterfeited and passed down to the world. Note 1. This incomplete volume accounts for about 1/10 of the entire book, but the cost of cultivation has not changed. Once you start practicing, you will initially take off your human form, and then your human nature will be transformed into human nature, until you are completely filled with the nature of beasts and beasts, transforming into a supernatural thing that transcends heaven and earth, transcending freedom. Note 2. To practice this method, you need to first collect the blood of the poultry mentioned in the book and use the blood movement method to get started. Note 3. The cost can be exempted. When all the information flow was digested, Tao Qian froze once again. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. The First Law of the Practice Realm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. The first law of the practice realm, there was a strange format of images in his mind, containing a huge amount of information, to the point where Tao Qian was stunned for a moment before digesting them. First, loosen your fingers and let the book return to its original position, then cover the lucky box. A look of disappointment appeared on his face, while his mind began to stroke through his thoughts. This time, more doubts in his mind were answered. Firstly, he really possesses something similar to a golden finger cheat. Specifically, within a certain range, there is a strong perception of extraordinary and eerie things, and after touching or fully controlling them, they can even sort out special information flows with relevant formats in their minds for Tao Qian to understand. In addition, there is something strange in his soul that seems to offset the cost of certain cultivation techniques. However, this has given rise to more problems. Is it true that all cultivation techniques in this world come at a cost? And can he be fully exempted? Thoughts flickered here, and Tao Qian looked back at the lucky box in his hand. Although he is a non-chieftain himself, he has indeed obtained a cultivation secret book that he bought for a silver dollar. It's just a secret script called 100 Birds Playing Fragmented Volume. From those pieces of information, it's obvious that it's not a serious cultivation technique. Hidden Malice. The 100 Birds Rebellion caused tens of thousands of people to suffer from disasters. 10 houses and 9 voids. These words sound very scary. Tao Qian held the lucky box, feeling worried but somewhat reluctant. Not to mention the unknown residual technique that only works when beheading. Holding this secret script in his arms is the only way he can practice now. Missing it would be a great pity. When I was killed, I recited the unknown residual formula and obtained the Immortal feature. The price I should have paid was for my body to rot and my soul to become a mysterious creature called a soul corpse. But I am exempt, so I have the immortality feature without any after effects. If practicing the 100 Birds Play Fragmented Volume also has such an effect, wouldn't I be able to indulge in those 100 bird powers for free? The last thought came to mind, and Tao Qian's heart couldn't help but thump. Excitement flashed in the eyes. However, Tao Qian was not a reckless person and quickly calmed down. I stayed in this lucky box compartment for a while longer. After confirming that there was no more palpitations, Tao Qian turned around and left. Next, Tao Qian enthusiastically set foot in almost every cabin of the number 1 scholar, and whenever it was a place for storing books, he made a trip. He is happy, but he has suffered one by one from accompanying his schoolboys, which has caused him a lot of delay. However, this guy only looks and doesn't buy, he is really stingy. Later on, the top scorer and all the book guides knew that there was a poor scholar on the boat, carrying a box of literary and musical blessings and wandering around, indicating what was wrong with him. About half an hour later, Tao Qian walked to the deck with a regretful expression on his face, followed by an expressionless book boy. As a service industry professional, with the management level of the top scorer, the latter should always have a brilliant smile on his face that makes people feel at home and bathed in spring breeze. He was indeed very professional at the beginning, until he accompanied Tao Qian to stroll around a few times. Tao Qian walked ahead, his gaze already beginning to look at the other book boats on the dock, while he said on the other side. The title of the top scorer is well deserved. Indeed, it has a vast collection of books, but today I was too regretful to find the book that suits my eye. The book boy behind him couldn't help but roll his eyes at the words. The corners of his mouth twitched and he smirked, saying, "Your esteemed guest has a high level of vision and can be understood. Please make sure to take a trip to the Dexing, Shulin, Qingfeng, and Cedar ships as well. There may be books you love on these book ships." As the words fell, the book boy ignored Tao Qian's reaction and turned around to turn to the cabin to greet other guests. Tao Qian didn't get angry or roast, but just smiled carelessly. "Hold the lucky box tightly in your arms and weigh your own money bag. There are only over 8 silver dollars left, so we need to save some money. If we really want to make a move, we will prioritize the Cultivation secret book, the illustrated newspaper girl, the vulgar forbidden book, and the martial arts novel. While Tao Qian took the number 1 spot, he peddled to other book boats, calculating in his heart how to spend it. Unfortunately, in the next half hour, Tao Qian wandered through the other book boats as quickly as possible. Harvest. None. There is no Cultivation secret book like the fragmented book of 100 birds playing. Standing on the dock, Tao Qian had a worried expression on his face. Even the beautiful scenery on the flower boat called Huanxi not far away, Tao Qian lost interest and went to see it. Recently, although these book ships have come every day, they have only stopped for 1 or 2 hours, and now it's almost time. Tao Qian's interest in treasure hunting, relying on his extraordinary radar, also declined. Assuming that he was not a chieftain, he turned around and walked towards a book ship called the Cedar. He has compared that most of the books sold on the book ship at the dock are genuine books, but in terms of price, the Cedar is the most affordable. Unable to find the second Cultivation secret book, Tao Qian decided to purchase some illustrated brochures and several sets of vulgar forbidden books. These should be the best sellers. Let's make some money first and get some health back. Tao Qian muttered, intending to witness the spiritual nourishment of men in this era. At this moment, he suddenly smelled a unique smell of moldy books. Immediately afterwards, the familiar palpitations resurfaced. With a swoop, Tao Qian suddenly turned around and looked at the water surface. But not far away on the river, a modified fishing boat was approaching, with 2 boatmen shaking the trough together. Standing at the bow of the boat was a tired-looking scholar, and a large number of books were piled up on the boat, bound with hemp ropes to prevent them from falling into the river. It is the Cedar that connects with this ship. After hastily handing over to an old book boy, the bookman went straight into the middle cabin to rest. The book boy commanded the boatman to carry the books onto the deck, but stopped them from moving them into the cabin. Instead, he instructed a teenage intern book boy beside him. These books have just been collected. They not only have a strong musty smell, but must also have some book-eating insects such as clothes fish. Arrange neatly on this deck, expose it to sunlight for several hours before storing it in the warehouse. If new customers are interested in some of the books in this pile, let them choose. The thick volume sells for 50 copper coins, the middle volume sells for 30, and the thin volume sells for 20. If it's a type of calligraphy, 10 copper coins are enough. However, it was a book hidden by a poor old scholar who was not even a Juran. It was not very secret or valuable, and after his death, it was sold clean by his son for $1 silver. Haoshuo exhausted the classics, wasting a lifetime, only 1 yuan. After the old scholar finished speaking, he turned around and went into the cabin. During the process of turning around, his corner of the eye caught sight of Tao Qian boarding the ship, but he ignored it and accelerated under his feet, disappearing into thin air. It is obvious that he has made up his mind that if Tao Qian comes after him, he will definitely encounter other bookworms as well. Unfortunately, he was mistaken. Tao Qian came up and headed straight for the pile of books with a strong musty smell. First, he arched his hand at the 2 boatmen working, then looked at the intern book boy and politely said, "I also heard that person's words just now. I happen to have some interest in these new books. Can you choose them? Dear guests, please." The intern immediately agreed with a bright smile when he saw business. Tao Qian actually locked onto the target in an instant, but out of caution, he pretended to flip through and pick it up from the pile of books. Quickly, he picked up a rough printed book with a dirty cover and even a torn blue and black medium volume. Title of the book: It's Strange, Nothing. Tao Qian manages his facial expressions well and opens the first page directly. At this moment, the eerie flow of information exploded again in Tao Qian's mind. The familiar quirky format was slowly sorted out. Title: Unknown Secret Volume. Category: Foreign Objects. Chronicle: In the 9th year of the Tianming reign, Wu Ming, a layman searching for immortals, fell on a cold couch at home. He was 90 years old and 3 years old. He was aloof and wild, with an upright nature. Although he was diligent in his poor years and never slackened in his studies, he failed many attempts. At the age of 60, he converted to the immortal path and self-proclaimed himself as a layman searching for immortals. This book was written by him in his later years. At that time, his consciousness was already unclear, and even the contents in the inner book were upside down. He did not know what was said, but on the last page, there was a piece of immortal fish technique that could explain the way of heaven. Note 1. Due to being contaminated by the mind and spirit of Wu Ming, this book has the characteristic of madness. If one practices the immortal fish technique contained in it, every time they practice it, their mind and soul will be assimilated by the heavenly way until their body stiffens and they die. The mind, spirit, and soul will blend into the heavenly way like an immortal fish. Note 2. The second cost of practicing the immortal fish technique is that no matter how many times you practice, when the soul-transforming fish roams through chaos, there is a chance of sudden death. Note 3. Practicing 10 times can exempt 9 times, and the remaining one is uncontrollable. Tisk, Tao Qian remained silent, but in his heart, he gasped in shock. Although there have been new gains, Tao Qian couldn't help but feel inexplicably happy at the information displayed. Starting from the unknown secret that gave him the immortality, then came the 100 Birds Play secret book, and then this nameless secret book. 3 consecutive things that clearly come from the realm of extraordinary cultivation all share a common characteristic, which is difficult to describe by coincidence. Tao Qian felt that he had vaguely grasped the first law of the cultivation world, perhaps the iron law. Any practice or extraordinary thing will come at a cost. P.S. The protagonist's golden finger will have a reasonable explanation, just like the previous version where everything is understood. In addition, the signing status of this book has been changed, and we can now offer rewards for monthly tickets. There will be another chapter later, so please help to push for the ranking. It's really embarrassing to see that position now. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Terrifying Old Men. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Terrifying Old Men. Tao Qian hastily came to a conclusion, but he actually couldn't be certain. After all, as of now, although he has touched on extraordinary things in secret, he has not yet communicated with a true practitioner. Although Tao Qian knew from the memories of the patriots and scholars that there are definitely many practitioners in this world. If he goes looking for it with great fanfare, there is a high probability that he will soon gain something. But that would probably be the way to die. The experience of many senior travelers tells Tao Qian that the way to go is to be honest. The unknown residual formula involves the breath of corpses, decay, and other things, like extremely unconventional things. Some costs are normal, and the same logic applies to the 100 Birds Play. But this immortal fish technique, according to its description, is very similar to the Taoist immortal family's Dharma decision, with even more terrifying cultivation costs. Tao Qian's mind was flooded with thoughts. Although uncertain, Tao Qian felt to himself that the law he had guessed was probably true. There are countless doubts in my heart that I want to solve, and I also want to carefully observe the 2 secret books I have obtained, but this is obviously not a suitable place. Tao Qian restrained his thoughts and looked as usual. He then picked out a few calligraphy books from the pile of books and showed them to the intern bookboy together. Immediately, dozens of copper plates were handed over. The bookboy happily accepted it, and Tao Qian thought for a moment. Without bothering the 2 masters, he took out a list of books with the cedar number from his sleeve and bought all the sets of illustrated posters and books he had long admired. Although the transaction was still only a few silver dollars, for the intern bookboy, Tao Qian was also a big customer. Not long after, the bookboy struggled to carry a large package out of the cabin. Hand in the book with one hand and take the 8 silver coins that Tao Qian reluctantly handed over with the other. When I arrived, the money bag was still quite plump, and there were only a few silver coins left when I was about to leave. Tao Qian, carrying a package full of books, got off the cedar and followed the way to return to his own Qingyu bookstore. Before leaving, I happened to see several girls on the huanqi, whose skin was deceiving frost and racing snow, chatting by the window. The atmosphere looked very good, making people want to join in. There was a slightly bold girl wearing a red belly pocket who also saw Tao Qian from a distance. Perhaps seeing him just disembarking from the book boat, or perhaps feeling that this guy is pretty good, he lightly lifted his lotus arm and saw that his posture was clearly beckoning Tao Qian to come over. Tao Qian compared his scissor hands to others and walked forward with a regretful expression on his face. As he walked, he confidently said, "I can't board the flower boat for 2 reasons. The first is poverty, and the second is that this matter is disrespectful to literary style." Amidst the teasing, Tao Qian quickened his pace and attempted to turn back to the bookstore at the fastest speed possible. Although he spent almost all his wealth, his purpose of this trip can be said to have been successfully achieved. The book you want to buy is not worth being so happy about. What really excites Tao Qian is naturally the 2 Cultivation secret books, 100 Birds Plays Incomplete Book and Unknown Secret Book. Although both require a huge cost. But Tao Qian knew he was different and could completely exempt half or even all of the cost, which could be considered a waste of time. May I ask, who in this world can refuse to engage in prostitution for free? That is to say, Tao Qian's temperament is relatively calm, otherwise he would have been running away long ago. But perhaps it was because he didn't run ahead that he didn't miss out on another familiar tremor. At the next moment, Tao Qian first heard a commotion of shouting and scolding coming from the front of the dock, and then he had a familiar perception. The originally crowded crowd seemed to be torn apart by someone. Tao Qian saw that the pedestrians around him were all looking frightened. He consciously retreated to both sides of the road, warning others in a low voice while retreating. "Quickly dodge, it's from the Chao gang. Oh no, something must have happened." The helmsman of the Chao gang's Immortal rudder personally came and looked very angry. "Don't speak recklessly, step back and lower your head." As a poor bookstore owner, listening to these voices, Tao Qian chose to follow suit. Slightly bowing his head, he retreated behind the crowd. Extremely natural, integrated into the crowd. Not long after, he saw the main leader. A group of over 100 strong men dressed in strong clothing, revealing their muscular physique, are fiercely marching forward. 7 or 8 people were surrounded by them in the middle position, each giving Tao Qian a terrifying feeling like a wild beast. But what really shocked Tao Qian was that he almost lost his composure. It is an elderly person led by this group of people. He is said to be an old man, but apart from his half-white hair and facial wrinkles, he has nothing to do with being old. He is at least 1.9 meters tall, wearing a silk robe woven with golden edges. His limbs are extremely thick, and he has a pair of slightly cloudy but extremely sharp eyes. Anyone who is stared at by him will immediately feel a sense of sharpness. This old man, in this era, at this dock. Walking in the crowd, the scene was like a wild and ferocious beast, walking in a flock of sheep without much difference. Just these are not the reasons that shock Tao Qian. What really makes him disbelief is his perception. The source of the palpitations is not a certain book, it is clearly this old man. Yes, my extraordinary perception has never been said to be limited to the martial arts secrets. I myself, isn't that weird format categorizing me as weird. According to the information description, weird refers to a living organism that has acquired some extraordinary characteristic. And what kind of old man is he? I need to touch his body to make perception more tangible. To uncover more secrets. At this moment, Tao Qian's inner thoughts could not be contained. Various problems and ideas are popping up crazily. If someone close by observes carefully, they will find that this poor bookstore owner seems to be in a state of both excitement and tension. Excited. Of course. Just like a giant beast, walking step by step, the old man with the identity of Chao Gang's seeking immortal branch helmsman. He is the second human being Tao Qian has sensed, besides himself, that is related to transcendence and cultivation. If it weren't for the urgency of his own life, Tao Qian really wanted to rush forward and poke at the old man to see if he could perceive the detailed information. Unfortunately, he cannot. You can tell from the reactions of those around you that this old man is not a good person. Tao Qian, like others, was in a state of confusion about the current situation. I don't know what exactly happened to this doc, and what these culprits are here to do. However, this doubt did not last too long. The next second, a huge change occurs. Boom! Without any warning, a loud bang appeared in the largest warehouse in the main area of the dock. Accompanied by the big explosion, thick smoke, flames, and various fragments of goods scattered towards the surroundings. In just a moment, the dock fell into great chaos. The crowd dispersed like a frightened group of mice, running around, with a mix of screams, cries for help, and roars. Those with slightly poor hearing were no different from those who were deaf on the spot. Quickly, all the noise was suppressed by a low, dragon-like roar. Not surprisingly, the old man made a sound. He seemed completely indifferent to the chaos at the pier and only sneered at the direction of the warehouse, which was left with ruins. Come out, with a murderous intent but unable to hide it, I can already smell it across the street. The old man's words had just dropped. But listening to the sound of clothes breaking through the air all over the dock, there were about 100 figures wearing various robes, but all with red ribbons tied to their foreheads. Everyone gave Tao Qian a stronger impression than the group of people from the Chao gang. Even there is an extremely mild palpitations. Especially led by a young man who was locked in by the old man and slowly emerged from the thick smoke of the ruins. He is also at least 1.9 meters tall and wears clothing similar to a Taoist robe. His facial features were extremely handsome, with a scar extending from below his left eye to below his right eye, spanning his entire face. Although his body was not as exaggerated as the old man's, it was also slender and robust, far exceeding anyone in the field. If it were in Tao Qian's past life, such a person could definitely enter the entertainment industry and be called a male god. And his palpitations to Tao Qian were only slightly weaker than those of the old man. This old man and the young Taoist should both be cultivators, while the group of assassins who follow the Taoist are associated with transcendence and strangeness, but their essence still belongs to the ordinary. Tao Qian, who made this judgment, had already gone from excitement to a slight numbness. After 2 days of rebirth, I struggled to find an extraordinary, eerie, and spiritual existence. Unexpectedly, this happened unexpectedly, and I was sent directly to a nest. Although I had anticipated it after reading the memories of the patriots and scholars, it was indeed too fast. However, there are still many doubts. What is the situation in the cultivation world? Whoever is on both sides, I really want to touch them and let me see what other categories of Zhiyi are. Tao Qian pondered quickly while also quickly retreating. The experience of many movies and TV shows in his past life told him that a grand battle is about to begin, and the person with the highest risk of death in this battle is not both sides, but the onlookers. When Tao Qian retreated suddenly, both sides seemed to be saying something. However, Tao Qian retreated too far and couldn't hear it accurately. Tao Qian doesn't need to listen too clearly, he doesn't need to guess, it's just some kind of revenge drama. Just as Tao Qian felt that he had retreated far enough, he quietly turned around and looked at the main area of the dock. A battle beyond anyone's imagination, staged without any warning. The leader of the Chao gang, that old man. He even waved his hand voluntarily, urging a group of subordinates to retreat. What's even more strange is that the group of big men were ready to run away before the old man issued the signal, which made them even more speechless and rushed backwards. At first, everyone felt strange until the next second. Roar. When this roar, as if it were an ancient ferocious beast, echoed through the dock. 100 people. 1,000 people. Yes, at least thousands of people felt a sharp pain in their ears and eyes, and blood burst out. Even worse, it was the group of assassins closest to the old man. Except for the young Taoist who led the way, everyone else seemed to have fallen into a state of rigidity. And the old man finally moved. There seemed to be something terrifying awakening in his body, and in Tao Qian's eyes, he instantly lost the breath that humans should have. He grinned grimly, took a big step, and leaped like a beast in front of a killer. A palm as big as a fan clenches its fist, like a horizontal hammer. With a loud bang, the killer's great head shattered like a watermelon hit hard. And in the next moment, a scene appeared where everyone, including Tao Qian, covered their backs and couldn't control their expressions. After the old man smashed the killer's head, he reached out with a big hand and grabbed the remaining corpse. With a wide open mouth, he suddenly aimed at the neck that was bursting with blood and leaned towards it. Then, gudu, he began to drink heavily. Thank you for your tips and monthly tickets. Many familiar IDs have returned, and I hope you will enjoy this new story. I hope the monthly tickets can make it to the top. Thank you all. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. When a country is about to fall, there will always be demons. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. When a country is about to fall, there will always be demons scared silly. These 3 words are the most appropriate description for the many people on the dock at this moment. Almost everyone stared at the scene with round eyes, unable to believe it. This even includes Tao Qian. The practitioner he envisioned was not like this. The extremely terrifying scene made many people lose their ability to move and freeze in place in fear. The two sides in battle naturally do not have any concerns. Those assassins died without any fear, and the next second they all showed the appearance of martial arts experts. Each person drew a thin sword, their bodies flickering like ghosts, and the visible sword energy gradually connected into a web, beginning to ravage the area. Almost all objects that have been struck by sword energy, whether they are buildings, piled up goods, or frightened masses. Most of it has turned into fragments. The only exception is the old man. Who would care about his identity now? The collective belief is that he is not a human at all, but rather an extremely cruel and crazy demon. And the old man's subsequent performance is also verifying this to everyone. After sucking out the fresh blood from the killer's body, his body began to swell and jumped to 2 meters in the blink of an eye. The muscles on his body, which presented a seductive and bright red color, directly broke through his clothes, and in the blink of an eye, he transformed into a truly fierce beast, fiercely withstanding those terrifying sword energies and rampaging in that area. Even those assassins have the performance of martial arts masters that Tao Qian could only see in his past life movies and TV dramas. Faced with such monsters, they are all powerless. But on the killer side, there is also the young Taoist. Although the Taoist did not give Tao Qian the same palpitations as the old man, he was still a genuine practitioner. He drew a soft sword from his loose waist. Immediately, rushed towards the old man. His speed is unparalleled in the field. It's not that kind of ghostly body method, it's simply moving in a way similar to teleportation or flickering. The other assassins cannot break through the defense, but he can. Every time he wields his sword, there is no sword energy or sharpness, but the soft sword carries a strange red light. Falling on the monster old man, a sword left a scar. Although not lethal, it unexpectedly brings unbearable pain to the monster elder. The old man roared and kept trying to catch the Taoist, hammering him to death. But the latter's speed is really too fast, and what suffers is the dock ground, which is the objects and other assassins in that area. It seems that in order to make up for the loss of blood, the old man targeted the assassins. Every time he kills, there must be meat sauce and corpses born. As time passes, the number of killer deaths begins to increase. What made everyone even more nervous was that the old man's cannibalistic actions gradually became more frequent. At first, he only sucked blood, but later he started tearing at the body of the killer he caught, occasionally putting a hand or leg into his mouth to chew. As these terrifying scenes emerged, a large number of alienation phenomena began to emerge in the body of the elderly. His entire skin was cracked, but soon it healed again due to the fine and dense granulation. On the surface of the body, purple-black, decay spots began to grow one after another. My hair is completely white and starting to fall off. The spine of the back is twisted and curled, with sharp and white bone spurs piercing through the skin and flesh like armor, completely enclosing its internal organs. 2 eyeballs were pierced by the young Taoist's soft sword, but deep in the blurred flesh and blood, a pair of inhumane, blood eyes opened again. Even the onlookers can tell. That monster old man, his strength is increasing. But at the same time, he seems to be gradually losing his sanity. Or, is it human nature? There are many assassins, but the damage is even more astonishing. Suddenly accompanied by a loud bang, the entire dock trembled, only to see the last 2 assassins killed on the ground at the same time by a pair of flesh and blood hammer-like fists. The monster old man didn't taste the meat sauce he made, and his bloodshot eyes locked onto the young Taoist figures flickering around the dock. The mouth, already swollen with blood, slowly opened and stuttered word by word, saying, "Tiger. Son. You can't kill me." Stuck, but with a huge volume, even Tao Qian, who had reached the edge of the dock, could hear it. Tiger. Is this related? Before Tao Qian could figure it out, he saw that the young Taoist had also stopped. He also has alienation characteristics on his body, which is the scar that crosses his face, inexplicably red, like a blood jade belt, eerie and terrifying. The old man's tiger made the Taoist laugh, but the laughter was mournful, as if a cuckoo was crying blood. He smiled and said, "Of course I know you can't kill you with this formation. I also know that you are practicing the Chao Gang's top-secret life manual, the Blood River Book, and you have completely refined the Blood River Qi. As long as one bite of the life source Qi doesn't extinguish, you don't have to worry about completely losing yourself. However, I happen to know how to extinguish your source gas. You are now transformed into a blood beast, and this beast loves the flesh and blood of humans the most, especially the one with a strong aroma that it cannot refuse." Before he could finish speaking, the young Taoist made a gesture that shocked everyone. He held his soft sword and turned to himself, only hearing a few hisses. The Taoist lost a large piece of flesh and blood on his left hand and left leg, and was then released by the Taoist's strength with 2 clicks, landing directly at the old man's feet. Then, chilling words were spoken from the crowd. He seemed to be crazy, too, with a mischievous expression on his face. He grinned and said to the old man as if coaxing a child, "Eat, eat quickly. This is not only the flesh of a practitioner, but also the flesh and blood of your biological son. Such a fragrance, how can you, a vicious beast of flesh and blood, refuse? Give it to me quickly." Hiss, the sword light flashed again. Several fresh flesh and blood pieces were delivered to the old man's feet. In the distance and near, everyone who watched this scene felt like they were going crazy at this moment. Although Tao Qian is similar, he also cares about the information leaked by the Taoist about transcendence and cultivation. In the blink of an eye, Tao Qian extracted the key words from the Blood River Classic, Blood River Qi, and Source Qi of this life. Without waiting for him to ponder carefully, an unimaginable upheaval occurred in the field. The monster old man obviously didn't expect the Taoist to be so crazy. Even though he was still indulging in fresh flesh and blood before, he seemed to have seen the most feared thing in the world, shaking back. No. In the monster's mouth, it emits a complex roar. Both longing and fear. In those bloodshot eyes, human nature and animal nature are intertwined. But soon, the beast won. The last straw still comes from that person. He untied his loose robe with one hand, revealing his chest covered in scars, and then made what could be described as a crazy move. Shoo! Hands like claws, fingertips like sharp knives, piercing hard into one's own chest. Then with a sudden tug, a crimson, still beating, heart was held in its hand. With great effort, he threw it towards the old man. Everyone's gaze was drawn to the still convulsing heart in mid-air. In the field, a faint, bloody scent even permeated. The old man, who was originally retreating or even planning to run away, went completely crazy when he saw that heart. In his eyes, it was not a heart at all, as if it was a flesh and blood immortal fruit that could make him immortal and ancestral after eating it. In a roar, he lost control. Like a true beast, an irrational mad dog, it leaped up and swallowed the fresh heart extracted from its own son's chest. When it landed, the heart had already entered the abdomen. He was still unsatisfied and fell down directly, continuing to nibble on the fresh flesh and blood. He can no longer speak human language in his mouth. Everyone knows that in a sense, the old man is gone, leaving only a crazy blood beast. Just as everyone was stunned by this, a series of piercing laughter rang out. Ha ha ha. Mother, your revenge has finally been avenged by the child. I originally wanted to settle this old thing directly, but my mother insisted on making some wish for the family to be together, so the child had to agree. But this old thing is too smelly and disgusting. The child doesn't want to directly touch its body, so I'll trouble my mother to bind it on my behalf. The incomprehensible words were uttered, and everyone had a sense of unease again. Soon, the premonition came true. The Taoist who had peeled off a lot of his own flesh and blood, and even dug out his heart, seemed as if nothing had happened at this moment. Take out a strange blue and red porcelain bottle from your pocket and bite off the cork with your mouth. The next second will be under this bright and scorching day. A phantom and ethereal figure of a woman floated out of the bottle mouth. Upon hearing the Taoist's words, she first scattered into mist and embraced him with a joyful embrace. Then it drifted towards the monster old man who was still eating meat. Along the way, the mist rolled and slowly condensed into a lifelike fog rope, entwined around the monster old man's neck with immense attachment. Strange to say, he would have attacked all the old men who were close to creatures. Faced with the foggy rope, he didn't resist at all. After being entangled, he became even more exceptionally obedient. At the other end of the fog rope, it lightly drifted into the hands of the Taoist. Next, the Taoist smiled eerily, with a blood jade on his face and a disheveled head. His robe spread out, revealing a blurry flesh and a large hole in his chest. He didn't look at everyone, as if there had never been anyone else in his eyes. He looked like a madman, holding the blood beast transformed by the old man, laughing and leaving the dock, rushing towards the outside of the immortal city. After an unknown amount of time, everyone finally came to their senses. Finally realizing. It's over, that nightmare-like scene is over. Many people were scared and defecated, still stiff and unable to move. Some people rushed back to the city, crying loudly from time to time. The remaining people should quickly turn to the dock to rescue them. Although there were heavy casualties, there were still many survivors wailing throughout the ruins. Tao Qian also turned around and witnessed the scene of the dock now resembling a human purgatory. In a certain ruins, an old Confucian with a Confucian hat on his head and a decent temperament, but his lower body was smashed, as if he was crazy due to severe pain or other stimuli. He turned his hands towards the sky and roared, saying, "The husband eats his wife, the son offers his flesh, the father and son are mutually destructive, and humans turn into blood and livestock. Oh my goodness, there will always be demons in the impending downfall of the country. These are all signs, they are foreshadowings. P.S. I am looking for a monthly pass to make it to the top of the list. I need it especially for the new book period. Thank you all, there is one more chapter." End of this chapter. Chapter 10. 10 Birds. Pigs and Sheep. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 10. 10 Birds. Pigs and sheep. The seeking immortal wharf has become like a human purgatory. Everywhere is smoke, flames, and ruins, with a large number of workers, vendors, and tourists howling in it. Tao Qian tried his best to save people, and at the same time, he roughly deduced the cause of the terrorist incident just now from the mouths of those who had experienced it firsthand. Before the battle, the monster old man and the young Taoist each spoke up. Once and for all, it's just enough to sort out some secrets. Of course, only these unlucky people nearby heard it, while Tao Qian and others who had fled too far at most heard some roars. The leader of the Chao gang's helm is named Hong Heihu. Although he is only the helm of the Seeking Immortal branch, it seems that due to some special reasons, he also holds a considerable position in the Chao gang's headquarters. Over a decade ago, Hong Heihu made a great contribution and was bestowed with profound teachings by the headquarters, known as the Blood River Book. Unexpectedly, Hong Heihu had an accident while practicing this technique, losing control of his alienation and actually swallowing his wife alive. This scene happened to be seen by his only son Hong Youhu, who fled from Shenzhou County in panic. 18 years later, come back for revenge. On this immortal seeking dock, a terrifying battle was staged for many people. When the officers and soldiers of the Shenzhou County government arrived, Tao Qian didn't intervene anymore and turned back to the city with the chaotic crowd. Listening to the wailing and crying around him, Tao Qian knew that only a few people in Shenzhou County could fall asleep tonight. Although people in this world, such as the original patriots and scholars, are aware that there are many demons, ghosts, and strange immortals in the realm of the Changsheng Heavenly Kingdom. But those extraordinary beings rarely engage in reckless fighting like they did just now, displaying an extremely terrifying side that can scare people crazy. Not only did Tao Qian meet for the first time, but also the residents of Shenzhou County. This reminded Tao Qian of the old Confucian's roar again, and a sense of urgency rose in his heart. Without further delay, Tao Qian quickly returned to his own Qingyu bookstore. Although many new products have been introduced, he has no intention of opening the door to welcome customers. From the side door of the alley entrance, directly enter the small partition used for sleeping and resting after entering the bookstore. Pack up the books you bought and quickly eat the food you bought on the way. After confirming that the doors and windows were closed, Tao Qian slowly took out the true harvest of this trip from his arms. 2 books that are neither thick nor thin, old and mottled, full of historical atmosphere. Or, in other words, a cultivation secret. One is the incomplete book of Baiqin opera, the second is the anonymous secret book. The former spent $1 silver to open a lucky box, while the latter was bought from a stack of books with 20 copper coins. Of course, obtaining 2 secret books relies on Tao Qian's unique and extraordinary perception. All today's experiences have fully verified Tao Qian's previous speculation. His soul has a special ability to perceive things related to transcendence and cultivation, whether it is a living or non-living entity. Pinched 2 books and weighed them. Immediately, Tao Qian put down the anonymous secret book and solemnly opened the remaining book of Baiqin opera. After all, there are only 10 pages left in the remaining volume. Let's start with a simple one. According to the information perceived in Tao Qian's mind earlier, Baiqingxi was created by a human cultivator who called himself Baiqinlo. From the description of the secret book, it can be seen that it is a powerful cultivation secret book. But at the same time, there is hidden terror and ferocity. This led to the so-called 100 Birds Rebellion. Tao Qian was completely unaware of the details of the disaster. What he knows is the terrible price that needs to be paid to cultivate this incomplete book. Once it starts, it will gradually take off its human form, followed by its inner nature, and finally become a monster beast, crossing the world and carefree. In other words, it means completely becoming a monster with no self, only a beast-like nature, just like the blood beast transformed by Hong Heihu seen at the dock. It's really scary, but it seems like I can go for free. With a murmur, Tao Qian turned to the first page. What first caught his eye were many faceless figures twisting their limbs and imitating birds. At first glance, Tao Qian recognized what the imitated protagonist was. Pig. If it weren't for witnessing the terrifying power possessed by practitioners, Tao Qian would only have a black line on his face at this moment. Imitating the giants of the animal kingdom such as tigers, lions, and bison can be understood. Imitating pigs, etc. It seems that wild boars are also big shots in the animal kingdom, after all, 1 pig, 2 bears, and 3 tigers. Tao Qian felt like he understood. Keep reading with curiosity. Quickly, Tao Qian discovered that these strange postures in the remaining book could not be discerned. Perhaps it was only after practicing that he could discover the supernatural. The real key to attracting Tao Qian's attention is the annotations at the bottom of each page. The steps for writing in ancient seal script and practicing the method are as follows. If you want to shape a pig, you need to collect enough animal blood first. A domestic pig that has lost its wildness is not allowed. It needs the most wild black swine in the wild mountains and forests. When the sun goes down every day, take a pot of black swine's blood, and then revise the book to show the birds. Practice every day. If you have talent, you can start in 3 days and gradually gain the power of swine. If you can practice deep, your body can be transformed into a black swine for a short time. Your tusks are like halberds, more powerful than hundreds of oxen, iron bones and copper skins. All the places you pass by are ruins. Even if you use powerful weapons, you can hardly hurt half an inch of skin and flesh. If you have the best talent, you can even get 1 or 2 blood power related to swine, known as summoning wind, rain, thunder, fire, heaven and earth in your belly, etc. Just when cultivating this method, you should pay attention not to touch human blood and flesh, and not to be obscene. Once the appetite and lust invade, the mind and soul will lose control immediately, and in a twinkling of an eye, you will completely take off the human shape and turn into a monster like pig demon and swine monster. After reading these notes, Tao Qian's eyebrows gradually furrowed. He originally thought that the cultivation secret of Baiqingxi should belong to the path of demons and demons. After all, from the results, as long as you practice this booklet, you will eventually turn into demons, which is why the 100 Birds Rebellion occurred. But now looking at these, Tao Qian has new speculations. In his mind, he summoned out the strange format information about the incomplete book before. The cultivation steps, precautions, are all clearly stated, without any concealment or omission. Perhaps the 100 Birds old man, who created this cultivation technique is not a member of the demon realm. If you can really do not touch human flesh and blood, and do not have a pornographic heart, you can obviously get swine power, even those magical powers. Unfortunately, achieving the former is not too difficult, but for the latter, it is also difficult for an ordinary person or even a great scholar. Saints all say that food, sex, and nature are the same, let alone ordinary people. So, this 100 Birds play is actually a powerful and easy to cultivate, but it has a huge flaw in the secret script. Amidst the surging thoughts, Tao Qian felt like he had gained some insight into the truth. Glancing at those strange little people, shaking their heads, and flipping back to the second page. This time, it's a sheep. Tao Qian did not intend to start practicing immediately, so he ignored those graphics and focused on the note at the bottom of the book page. To shape a sheep, it is also necessary to collect sufficient animal blood. Sheep that have been domesticated and fed by humans cannot be used. Spirit sheep that are difficult to find in the deep mountains and forests are needed. At noon every day, take a can of Lingyang blood and practice according to the book. Practice diligently every day, and within 2 days you can start learning, gradually gaining the power of the spirit sheep. Practicing to the depths, the body can briefly transform into the shape of a spirit sheep, shifting its shape and shadow, walking between reality and illusion. The high mountains and steep cliffs are like walking on a flat ground, and a pair of spirit sheep hanging their horns can instantly kill monsters and monsters. If one has excellent talent, they can obtain the bloodline divine power during the transformation, known to have the ability to determine destiny, predict good or bad, and void the body shell. When practicing this method, one must be careful not to touch any flesh or blood. Even during normal times, one should not consume flesh or blood, and only rely on flowers and plants as food. Whenever one touches a trace of meat or filth, their heart and soul will immediately lose their grip, and in an instant, they will completely take off their human form and transform into demons and monsters like sheep demons. Tisk. Tao Qian finally couldn't help but make a roast. His previous guesses were incredibly accurate. To cultivate a pig's form, one should not touch human flesh or think of bad things. This is understandable. In fact, being a pig cultivator and nurturing one's character is not that difficult to accept. But the cost of this sheep-shaped cultivation is too outrageous. It's just that you can't eat meat. The description is clearly extremely strict, not even a trace of meat or filth can be found, and even smelling it may pose a risk. That is to say, if you choose the sheep shape, you may easily succeed and acquire decent power and supernatural powers, but you must live according to the spirit sheep. So, this thing is not meant for normal people at all. The flaw is too great. If humans were to cultivate on a large scale, there would only be one result, creating a large number of demons with the power of 100 birds. Thoughts surged here, and Tao Qian suddenly realized. Although the details of the 100 Birds Rebellion are still unknown, there is no need to investigate. There is a high probability that many people in the Datua County area have practiced this 100 birds play, but it is feared that no one can truly abide by the rules, and as a result, they will all suffer. Pigs and sheep are already like this, what about the rest? Roast about Tao Qian gave rise to strong curiosity. Hand speed is extremely fast, flipping back to the remaining 8 pages. 2 out of 10 birds are gone, and there are still 8 species left. What kind of beasts are they? What price do we need to pay? What strange commandments are there? Tao Qian, who first touched upon the realm of cultivation and the secrets of cultivation, had a strong curiosity and fully experienced the pleasure of learning and knowledge. End of this chapter.